Hello everyone, and welcome to today's SANS webcast, Easier Web App Pen Testing by Leveraging Plugins and Extensions. Today's featured speaker is Micah Hoffman. If at any point during the presentation you have a question for Micah, please enter that into the questions window located on the GoToWebinar interface. Micah will be answering the questions throughout the webinar. And with that, I'd like to hand the presentation over to today's speaker, Micah Hoffman.
Hey, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending where you are. My name is Micah Hoffman. I'm a SANS 542 certified instructor. I teach the web app pen testing class. My next time teaching will be in November at the Hackfest, so I'm hoping I'll see some of you that are listening to me online there at that event. This talk has evolved over a couple of blog posts of mine, and I've shamelessly promoted my blog here on this in the WebEx screen. I made two blog posts, one about Firefox plugins and one about Burp Suite plugins, and I started thinking that these tools that we use for web application penetration testing are really just for looking around the web and doing our normal web browsing. Can be greatly extended and enhanced by many little add-ons made by people from around the world. So I wanted to take a little bit of time today to show you some of my favorite add-ons and extensions and show how maybe they can help you do your testing a little bit more efficiently or protect yourself a little bit more online, as the case may be. At any point in the conversation, if you do have a question, please go ahead and use the question button or the question side. There we go. All right. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be sure to answer them. So one of the things that we use, first off, I'm starting off the presentation. I'm going to be using Kali. Kali Linux's VM of Kali Linux for the presentation, just because it's easy. It has all the tools I need, and it's something that you can readily get your hands on in most cases. This is Kali Linux 2.0, and I've got a couple of different applications installed in here I'll go through. Let's start with the web browser first off. This is Iceweasel, which is very, very similar to Mozilla's Firefox. So any of the plugins and extensions that I show you here that extend Iceweasel, you can absolutely find in Firefox as well. So the first thing we'll do is go to Tools and Add-ons. And in that area, we have a page that looks like this. These are some of the plugins that I'd like to show you today and kind of run through. Some of them are very simple and easy to understand. Others are a little bit more complicated. First off, we'll start with Cookie Manager. When doing a web application pen test, sometimes you're able to capture somebody else's cookie, or you want to alter the cookie data, but yet you might not be putting the web traffic through a web inspection proxy or a web intercept proxy like Burp or Zap. In these cases, you might want to just quickly on the fly modify a cookie to see if you can have some effect. The Cookie Manager Plus application or add-on here allows us to quickly alter the content of cookies, as its name suggests. There used to be one of these called Cookie Monster. I couldn't find it anymore. I thought that was a pretty funny name, and it actually worked very well, but it's been yanked. So here in the Tools menu, since I have this installed, I can go to Cookies Manager, and I can not only see the cookies that are in my browser, but if I wanted to, I can go ahead and edit them just by double-clicking on them. You see we can change the content, change the scope, change the expiration date. Any of the information inside of here is something that I can alter. This can be very helpful on assessment, as it's a quick and easy way of putting in those cookies that you might have stolen through a cross-site scripting attack or some other type of client-side attack. The next add-on that we're going to go through is actually one of the most cool and underutilized applications that I've seen. This is Foxy Proxy. I'm using the standard version here, and all of these tools that I'm showing you right now, 100% free. It's easy to get by just clicking the Get Add-ons and then searching for the name of the add-on up at the upper right. Foxy Proxy is a way of quickly configuring your browser to send its traffic to a number of different proxies. The cool part about that is that there's other tools that can do just that, but the cool part about it is that Foxy Proxy allows you to set up certain rules so that certain traffic is sent to certain browsers. For instance, let's take a look here. If I go to my blog page, here's the icon for Foxy Proxy. I right-click on Foxy Proxy, and I see these are the different places I can send traffic to. You see this use burp 8080 for all URLs, or completely disable Foxy Proxy. Right now, I've got it completely disabled. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like when we set up a proxy in here, and what makes this tool so powerful. We're going to add a new proxy. I've set up, I'm running Z-Attack proxy, ZAP. I'm going to set up a new proxy. I have ZAP running on port 8888. So when you first pop up this screen, this is very similar to what you might have seen in other places. We're going to set up what localhost and port to use to send our traffic. And that's pretty simple. Over here on the General tab, we're going to type in that this is for ZAP, and I like putting in what port I put it on just in case I want something else listening on that port. I know that I can select this setting, and it will send all the browser traffic to that port. One of the very helpful things that you can do is go ahead and change the color. I want to make this a red color just because it will distinguish itself from the burp traffic, which is green. All right, the next part is the cool part. I'm going to leave this default here in ZAP, but I'll show you in burp the power of it. Here, what we've got is where we can create whitelists or blacklists for certain websites or URLs for their traffic to be sent or not to be sent to the proxy. Let's check this out in the other proxy that I've got it set up already. We hit OK, and now you can see that we have two proxies set up, one for burp on 8080, one for ZAP on 8888. And here we can select to send all of our traffic there or not. If we dive deeper into the burp proxy, you can see in the URL patterns tab here, I've created a couple of different patterns and said, don't send these to my upstream proxy, to burp or to ZAP, because I don't want that traffic in there. Now, sometimes when I'm pen testing, I'm not able to use multiple browsers for one reason or another. Most of the time when I'm doing a web pen test, I'll have Firefox open or Iceweasel open, and that's what I do my assessments in. But you know what? Sometimes you can't open up a Google Chrome browser or an Internet Explorer browser or Safari and do your emailing or your Pandora or whatever it is that you want to do in there without sending that traffic through burp or ZAP. What we can do here is use one web browser like Firefox and just tell Foxy Proxy that if the URL that would have been sent to burp or ZAP matches this pattern, then don't send it. So in my proxy, in my web browser here, I can be doing my web assessment, and that traffic would all be sent to my upstream proxy. What would happen is if I've visited Google or Pandora, that traffic is blacklisted and won't be sent there. It's actually pretty cool. Let's see how it looks. We're going to go ahead and click on Use Proxies based on predefined patterns and priorities, and that way all traffic will start here and go. You can also have this trickle down, so I can have some traffic go to burp, some traffic go to ZAP. That's pretty cool. We're going to select that, which will allow those rules within burp to take effect. Over here I have Burp Suite running. Now this is Burp Suite Pro, which there's a dollar value associated with it. It costs around $300, but this works equally as well with Burp Suite Free or ZAP or one of the other tools out there that's an interception proxy. I'm going to switch to the Proxy tab and the HTTP History tab to allow me to see each of the requests that my burp is looking at. Now, if I go over here to this United Airlines page, let's go ahead and just take that off and hit Enter. Yes, the connection is untrusted. We're going to go ahead and allow it to put an exception. And we see that the traffic is flowing into burp, just like we'd expect. Now, if I go ahead and change this to go to www.pandora.com, you see Pandora starts loading over here, and over here we don't have any Pandora entries because I've blacklisted that, and that traffic is going right out to the internet. that can absolutely save you time and server load or proxy load here, because your burp will not have to process all of that extra traffic. Okay. All right. The next application is not one that I use during testing. I use this in my personal life to protect myself from being attacked or from being tracked on the internet. It's Ghostery. I found it to be a pretty good resource for blocking those applications that want to track where I go and what I'm doing online. The next tool is a hackbar tool. Now this is an older tool, and it's actually an add-on, a toolbar here that we can enable. What this does is it allows us to gain access very quickly to a number of different options. Everything from how we encode certain content to fuzz strings for basic SQL injection or cross-site scripting, to creating MD5 and SHA-1 hashes of different values. You would use this mostly if you're in an assessment and you need a quick and easy way to send a quick string to check for SQL injection, or let's say that you found something that's Base64 encoded, but you don't have the full power of Zap or Burp on the back end. You just want to do something very quickly. This tool, Hackbar, might be very useful to you. The next tool is one called Tampered Data. And actually, yes, to answer the question that's in there, are these add-ons also available for Google Chrome? Many of them are. Some of them are available under different names. Foxy Proxy is available, I believe. Ghostery is absolutely available. Hackbar I'm not sure about, and Tampered Data I'm also not sure about. But many of them are either available or there's another one out there in the Google Chrome store that will allow you to do the same types of functionality. Tampered Data is a web interception proxy similar to Burp and Zap, but not as powerful as Burp and Zap are. It's something that if you don't have your copy of Burp or aren't allowed to run Java on some system, but yet you need to intercept traffic, Tampered Data can absolutely help you out there. uBlock Origin is an application that does ad blocking, similar to the way AdBlock used to do it. AdBlock was recently sold to, I want to say log me in. AdBlock was recently sold. I'm sure somebody can put that in the questions area. AdBlock was recently sold, and the people that it was sold to, it was a company that not necessarily is one that I would trust to have my best interests in mind. So I choose uBlock Origin. It does a really good job of blocking ads. Now this is another one of those, just like Ghostery, that I use to protect myself, not when I'm doing a web pen test, because while I'm doing a pen test, I want to make sure that I'm seeing all of the ads and seeing all of the content on the pages. This is just another one that I use while I'm checking out websites. Now, the next one is also a very cool application. It's called User Agent Switcher, and this is one that I'm going to be using to change the user agent that is sent from my browser to the web server. For those of you that don't know, every time you make a web request, whether it's from your mobile device or from a tablet or from your laptop or desktop computer, your computer sends a little bit of information about your system to the remote server. Let's take a look here at a couple of them that this tool knows about by default. This is Internet Explorer 8. When I make a request from a system that has Internet Explorer 8, it might send something like this. User agent Mozilla 4.0 compatible, MSIE 8.0, which shows that this is a Microsoft Internet Explorer version 8 system. Here we have the operating system version of the system. And all of this information is sent to the remote server. Now, I'll bet you've seen this happen in real life. If you go to, let's go ahead and go to one of these web pages. I'm going to turn off the sending our traffic through Foxy Proxy. Let's go to United's web page again. Now, I bet you've seen this in effect. You visit a web page using your web browser, and this is what you see, the desktop view. Let's go ahead and use the user agent switcher. If we go to Tools, Default User Agent, you see we have these options now. We can pretend to be the Google bot. We can pretend to be an iPhone 3 phone. I'm going to select the iPhone 3 phone, so now my user agent is being sent over to the site, to United's website, and says, hey, I'm an iPhone 3. I'm going to cut off the end of this here and just hit enter and see what happens. United's website has taken that user agent string and said, hey, well, you're coming from a mobile device. You're going to want our mobile optimized website. And it's redirected me over to the mobile.united.com site. That's pretty cool. Now we know that there's other sites out there and that the application, the web application, is aware of the the user agent that's being sent. Let's take a look here at user agent switcher and see if we can upload some new user agents. There's a link down here that says, you see we have just a couple of user agents right here. There's a link here that will take you to this page. This page here, on it is a link to download a user agent switcher.xml file. And that file has a ton of user agents in it. We can see it's in XML. I'm just going to right click and save this to my desktop. Save page to my desktop. I'm going to go back into add-ons. In the user agent switcher, go back into preferences. I like removing all of these because I'm not going to need them anymore. And when we import user agent switcher, check it out. Now we have all these different versions of Windows browsers, from Chrome to Firefox to Maxthon. Anybody remember Maxthon? Yeah. We even have mobile devices, a whole bunch of different ones depending upon what you want. It's organized very easily, and if your application might test things differently, this is going to be a great resource for you. On my blog on webbreacher.com, I also have a blog post about using the Google bot user agent to bypass some to bypass some authorization walls out there on the internet. So you can take a look at that. But you can pretend to be the Google bot as well. And that's the user agent switcher app. I'm looking at the questions now. Yes, there will be a recording of this webinar available afterwards. And these plugins look very useful, but how do you go about satisfying yourself that these plugins are benign? Excellent question from Paul. How do you know that these plugins are actually not hacking my box or sending the traffic that I'm using and that I'm testing, sending the traffic to and from to another server, or that they're not injecting content into the data stream to attack my box? The answer, Paul, is that you have to test these in your lab, your own system, your own area, to make sure that there's no extraneous data and that they are right. Some of these are more well-known tools like Foxy Proxy and uBlock Origin that I trust, and I've been using user agent switcher for a long time. So I do have that level of confidence with them. Let's go to the last one, or one of the last ones here, the Wapalizer application. This is a pretty cool application. If we go back to the blog, my blog, we can see that after the URL here, there's a whole bunch of different icons. What Wapalizer does is when we click on this, it looks at the information that the blog is sending, the contents of the page, and the headers that are coming back from the web requests. And it will parse out all of the different technologies that it can sense. And it gives that to you so that you have more information about your target, whatever you're testing. So in this case, this page right here uses Google Analytics. Google Font API is running on Nginx web server using Speedy for transport, has WordPress CMS, etc. And we can go down farther and farther. The neat thing about that is that we can see at a very quick click here that we might have an IIS 7.5 server, we might have an ASP.NET server at that version level, and it can greatly facilitate your pen tests if you trust that data, it can at least give you some places to look for other vulnerabilities. So this is Wapalizer, and we'll see Wapalizer again when we get into the Z-Attack proxy or ZAP. The last plugin that I wanted to show you here in Chrome, Firefox / Iceweasel, is this web developer one here. Oh, JSON view. I'm going to enable that one. So there's two more, web developer and JSON view. What web developer does is it allows us to, let's see. Sorry about that. What web developer does is it allows us to easily alter the page that has returned to us. So you see when I went to view, toolbars, web developer toolbar, and enable it, it allows me to edit the page to do everything from disabling certain pieces of it, whether it's proxy pop-up blockers, or adding cookies, to doing things like allowing us to see all of the hidden form fields on a page. We can also remove barriers if a developer has set a max field size for a certain form field. Using web developer toolbar here, we can quickly remove that content as well. And there's other things that we can do here, including change, let's see, sorry. We can do a bunch of other things in web developer, which might be helpful to you as well. Again, it's just something in your browser that you can go ahead and do and use to more quickly alter the traffic and data. Do they have these tools for and extensions for Internet Explorer? The answer is yes and no. Some of them they do have, but most of the tools that I'll be talking about today are mostly for Firefox, probably Chrome as well, and of course Iceweasel. So these are a bunch of different things. The last one that I want to show you is the JSON one. Now, this is kind of a neat one. Many times in our testing, we come across JavaScript object notation content, and sometimes it looks like, let's go ahead and load up this page. I have a JSON file right here. This is a recon ng module that I wrote, and this is what it looks like when we have the JSON view turned on. You see it's really nice and nested. We can collapse certain sections. It's presented very well and it's syntax highlighted. Let me turn off the JSON view and I'll show you what it looks like without it. We go up here and disable. All right. And now we load the page. That's what it looks like without it, which still is kind of readable from my perspective, but having the collapsible areas, having things syntax highlighted can be useful as well. So JSON view is another one of the add-ons that I suggest for testing. And that's all we have for the Firefox or Iceweasel browser. Let's go ahead and move into Burp Suite and see what kinds of, actually we'll move into ZAP. Z-Attack proxy. So I've got Burp Suite and ZAP running here. This is Z-Attack proxy. If you don't know about Z-Attack proxy, it's OWASP.org's web interception proxy, and it's very capable. It's under constant development, and it's a great tool to use if you're just looking to learn, and it's a very capable tool if you can't afford to buy the $300 Burp Suite Pro application. This is a good alternative. Z-Attack proxy allows us to send traffic into it through creating a local proxy. So if I go ahead and click here, see we're going to be sending traffic through our Z-Attack proxy. The icon over here for Foxy Proxy is red. And when we come over here, we see now that we have web breachers, WordPress content. We can look at the source code of the page here. Here's the request that was sent and the response coming back. It's pretty cool. Down at the bottom, we have all the functionality. Now, if you have used earlier versions of Zap, you'll see that in the newer versions, 2.41, I believe, and above, or maybe 2.4 and above, they have turned off all of the different tools, except you can turn them on down here. They've just collapsed this bar so it's not so busy until you actually use one of these extra tools. Now, the reason why I bring this up is you see all these different features that Zap can do. In the Tools menu, under Options, there's an Extensions category. And here, this extension, this is where we turn on and off all of those different pieces and more that the tool can do. You see down here we have things like WebSocket and Zest and Spider Ajax. If we come over here, we see WebSockets, Zest, and Spider Ajax. So we can turn on different pieces, and the reason why we might want to do that is that this application, Zap, and also Burp, they're Java-based applications. The more content you load, the more features you load, the more memory it takes. The more memory it takes, the more things can happen that can make your assessment go a little wacky. So if you're not going to use a feature or a function, you're never going to be using the Zest results. Maybe you want to turn that off, or you're not going to be port scanning through here. Consider turning that off. Now, Zap has a really nice area over here in Help. Check for updates. This is the place where if you do have Zap connected to the internet, you'll be able to update any of these plugins. These are the same plugins that we just saw on the extensions menu. You'll be able to update these. Over here it'll say, hey, there's an update available for this plugin or that plugin. And what's nice is that we can also get a little bit more information about what these plugins do. If we want to add to these plugins, we can switch over to the marketplace. Now, this is something that OWASP maintains, or the makers of Z-Attack Proxy maintain. And usually these are things that people in the community create. Sometimes the maintainers of OWASP Zap will create these as well. But these are things that you can contribute. If you create something that's really cool that is a way of extending the Zap, you can submit it to the project and they will put it in here. It's set up as alpha, beta, or release quality. So you know that a release quality are production-ready things that are very stable and very well tested. Beta quality or beta status are maybe a little bit more buggy or have a higher risk of crashing things. And alpha is use at your own risk. These are really cool. Some of these are very good, and depending on what they are, I would not be scared by the beta quality or something. For instance, SVN Digger here, this is used for going and looking at the information coming back in your browser to look for .svn files and to scrape the data from them. This could be very helpful, and there's really very little risk to enabling this. So if we want to enable it, we just click on it, we say we want to install it, and then it will download and install it. And it shows up over here now. And the next time, it will go ahead and check and see if there's an update to it. Now, some of these rules, some of these plugins take effect in different parts of Zap. So once we close here, as we saw over here, some of the content shows up in here. Some of the content is updates for different tools. For instance, over here we have the directory list version 2.3, we have fuzz database files. Those types of files would probably be used if we wanted to fuzz, let's say we want to change this, we want to fuzz, and in here we have different payloads that we can use. In here, if we update, if we added the directory listing or the directory contents, or if we added the fuzz DB files, that content could show up over here. So it's just something that's standard content that you can use to extend your assessments. Let's switch over to Burp right now. We're going to go back into our proxy. We're going to send all of our content over to Burp Suite. And I'm going to reload this page. It's going to say, are you sure you want me to send this? Yep. Just go ahead and send it. Don't worry that we're going there. I'm going to send this one. We're just going to get some content into Burp Suite. And now we show Burp Suite. Now, Burp Suite, if you've done pen testing for a while, you know that there's two versions of Burp Suite. One's the professional version, which is what you see here, and one's the free version. Both of them are at version 1630 right now. Both of them are at version 1630, and you can download them from the internet. If you pay the licensing fee, then you can get the pro version, which is what I'm going to show you. Some of the extensions for Burp only work in the pro version, and that's what I kind of wanted to show you here, some of the more useful ones that I found. Burp uses a concept of extenders and extensions. Under the Extender tab, we have some options here. We're going to start off over here in the BAP store. The BAP store lists all of the different modules that the Portswigger company, Portswigger.net, has allowed to be in the BAP store. Now, some of these modules are created by them. Others are created by various people on the internet. And as we cycle through the different modules that are here, we can see what the different ratings are that people have given it, a little bit of information about how to use this or how to load it. And also there's a column of whether this only works in the pro version or not. And some of them do. Many of them do not. Many of them work in either Burp Pro or free. So your mileage may vary. One of the other things that we need to know, and we can see that in some of these, like this one here, the Active Scan++, this extends Burp's active and passive scanning. So Burp Pro has a scanner, and this adds certain tests to that. So it makes an already existing module a little bit more effective, or goes a little bit deeper, and that can be helpful. Sometimes these extensions require other libraries to work. Like in this case, it needs the Json library. If we switch over to the Options tab, we can see that I've already taken the time to go ahead and load in the Json standalone library there. And that's a way for us to tell Python, the scripting language, to talk to Java application like Burp. This is easily downloaded for free on the internet. So once we figure out which ones of these we want, and I've already installed a few of them here, and once we figured out what we want and we've hit the install button, which would be down here, over here is where they show up. Each of the different modules that I've chosen to install today show up here. We get a little bit of information about the application, and in some cases we get a little bit of standard output. Some of these will extend things like ActiveScan extends the scanner module, which is what we've seen before, what we saw in the content of the module. Others add tabs to the actual Burp Suite layout to allow us to further configure the tool. So the JS Beautifier, the JavaScript Beautifier tool, allows us to specify many different settings here to make JavaScript look a little prettier. What I want to do now is just run through a couple of the different modules and show you kind of the power of them. The first one I want to show you is one, let's see. The first one I want to show you, let's go back to Extender, is the Dotnet Beautifier. If anybody's tested .NET applications, you'll know that there's usually a view state file, or there's usually a view state value. When we send a request over to an active server page application, they can, we type in view state down here, be configured to have this huge Base64 encoded blob of content. This information here can many times be modified, but you have to understand what's in there first. This .NET Beautifier app does us a really big service by allowing us to it creates a tab here, and if I click this, I have that Base64 content decoded and put into a nice set of drop-down lists here. So we have pairs and lists, and you can see here that this is all about the page captcha. It makes it really easy to modify or actually to understand the application. Now, if we wanted to, we could easily take this information, copy, send to decoder. Now, Burp Suite has a Base64 decoder, and we can see that this is all the Base64 content. And the reason why I know that is when I tell Burp to decode it as Base64 and show me the text, we see some of the content there. Page captcha, confirmation number, some other things, music notes and other things that are misinterpreted, but very entertaining. Look at that, telephone, music. Can you imagine actually coding this and going, okay, I need a triangle, telephone, music note, D. That would be hilarious. So this is not very readable and easy to see. But yet if we go over here, you can see that's very, very easy to read and to eventually tamper with on the back end when we send it back through. So that's one of the things. The other thing is, again, we'll take a look at the Json decoder. And for this, what we need to do is find some JSON content. Let's see if we can go back into Iceweasel and pull up United's web page. Come on. There we go. So if we scroll up now, I did make a sacrifice to the demo gods today. Since this is all demo, I figured I needed it. Let's go ahead and do that. Yes, I understand. This is a brand new version of Kali Linux, and I haven't updated. Oh, I forgot. This is another lesson that I'm glad we came across. You want to make sure that when you've tampered with things like your user agent string and other things, you turn it back to the default versions when you go to do your testing. See, it wasn't an error. I meant to do it like that. All right, so we're going to go back to united.com with the correct user agent, and over here in the page, we see united.com and we see MIME type of JSON. Now that's a pretty small one at 1440. Let's take a look at this one. This is 8570 bytes long. If we look at the response over here in the raw, we can see that the JSON start out with a curly brace, and then we have this name value section. And you can kind of read it. It looks a little kludgy. With the Json Decoder plugin, we click there, and it doesn't really look that much better. It's a little bit more readable, but not much. So your mileage may vary here. In some JSON, like the one below it, when we look at it in this JSON, you can see that it's very nicely indented. We can easily read the different name value pairs, and we can see the indentations. In the raw format, it's also in that same way. So that was a little trick there. That they've already formatted it for us like that. Some of the applications, some of the plugins work better on certain data than others. Okay. So that brings me to the end of the broadcast. I could keep going into more and more of these applications, more and more of these add-ons and extensions, but I think this presents a pretty good overview of them and allows you to go ahead and experiment on your own. If you are into building your own application, the Burp Suite Pro and the Burp Suite application owners, Portswigger, have a great set of documentation on how to extend their application. There's help menus over here, there's the question mark, and they even have a lot of information on their web page. You can do it in Java, Ruby, or Python. So that is something that you might want to check into. For those of you that are interested in visiting my blog, because I do have this and other information on it, it's webbreacher.wordpress.com. So with that, I'll open it up. If there's any more questions, just type it into the little window there. Otherwise, thanks for attending and have a great day. All right, David. So does Zap support importing CAs for the online on the fly? Let's check that out. I'm not exactly sure about that. Both of these tools, Burp and Zap, have a lot of functionality that's built into it. In the options, let's take a look in the local proxy area. No, it might be in the I'm not sure on that answer, David, on the answer to your question, David, but I'm sure that Google knows. So I hate to defer to Google or DuckDuckGo. Don't get me wrong there. You can use either of the search engines. There's a lot of different ones here. Okay. Yeah, WebScarab did have a lot of nice features. And OWASP Zap here is an evolution of that. There used to be a Paros proxy, which kind of was derived from WebScarab, and Paros proxy kind of moved closer to, or Zap evolved out of that, whereas the WebScarab is what Burp's interface really evolved into. So, yep, sorry I don't have the answer to your question, but I'm sure you can find it out there on their help pages. All right, well, thank you everybody for coming. I appreciate your time, and have a great day.